If you had a sneaky suspicion that they were trying to bamboozle you with the many different thicknesses, lengths, quantities, colours and costs when it came to sound deadening, so much so in fact that you went with the most popular regardless of the price, then be prepared for some similar tactics when it comes to this type of insulation. Personally, I think the bulk of what's out there probably emanates from the same source. This shipping sack doesn't do much to allay my suspicions. I know, shut your gob Columbo and get on with the post. So, Kiravans are the company I got this particular deal from. It was a straightforward transaction, there was no hidden costs, and it arrived promptly and in good condition. This 8mm thick, 10-metre long thermo-acoustic roll was supposedly from a faulty batch where the adhesive was apparently substandard, and it was recommended that a spray adhesive was required. I paid a penny under £50 for it, plus £8 postage and packing. If you're flush with cash, then getting someone else to carry out improvement works to your camper must be pretty neat, and something I'm not jealous about, honestly. But for those of us forced to do as much as our particular budgets and skill sets will allow us to tackle, then I'd describe installing this type of insulation as very doable if you're considering giving it a go. I might go so far as to say it's easy, maybe even a pleasure. Okay, so I'm taking it a bit too far. But the material cuts easy provided you've got decent blades, and the grid pattern on the foil side works well as a cutting guide. Although the seller had stated there was an issue with the adhesive, I only needed to resort to the spray glue on a couple of occasions, so most of the time I kept wondering if I'd been sent a roll from the good stock, although most of where I had to lay it was on the floor, so it wouldn't have needed much to stick here, especially with a lump of wood on top. Obviously you want to make sure the surface you're applying it to is as clean and dust free as possible. As you can see, the leading edge is uneven where it's been sliced off at the factory, so to begin with I'll be needing a nice straight squared off end to start off with. This was simple and easy to achieve using the squares on the foil side as a guide to cut along. So here's the first piece laid out and ready to cut. Once again, the squares were a great help in guiding that cut. I think I did toy with the idea of laying one continuous length that would go up and over the engine bay, but somewhere along the way I came to my senses and broke the floor into two separate areas. One being the main area just inside of the sliding door, and two being up and over the engine. Once happy with my cut, I would peel back and stick down the leading edge to hold the piece in place. Then fold it over on itself, peel back and stick. But as you can see, the backing sort of came away in pieces, which wasn't really troublesome, just fiddly and finicky. The really awkward areas were along the edges. It was like this the whole length of the roll, and it took a bit of patience to get it all off. Not moaning though, knew what I was getting into when I ordered it, and I'd do so again if I were on the market for some more of this type of insulation. And here's that first sheet down. It looks great and was easy to do, nothing to it really. I'm always nervously optimistic when a job starts to go this well, almost like I'm expecting to pay for it elsewhere. Must be the pessimist in me. This bit may be important because potentially it's an error, depending on how you view it. If, like me, you're going to be ordering pre-cut panels, then you might not want to be finishing your floor right up to the sides of the van panels and pillars as I have. Because I have, I'll now have to mess about trimming my panels to fit my finished floor surface, something I could have avoided. I could have done one or two things to have avoided this. One, leave a gap around the edges of the flooring if I were laying the flooring first and ordering and fitting the panels at a later date. Or two, with the panels finished and in situ, then measure and cut the flooring around them. I say potentially an error because although I hadn't factored this all in before laying my floor, and this includes the sound deadening, the insulation that you see here, the plywood base and the finished surface before ordering my panels and discovering my error, but I've just trimmed them and it wasn't too stressful and it seems to have worked out fine. So if you've made the same mistake, don't stress too much. I'll show this all in a later post. So here's that first section done. Notice that despite the adhesive supposedly being substandard, you can see where I've been kneeling on it as I've been laying it, and it's stuck nicely, even moulding to the lower channels. I already had the plywood floor cut out and ready to go over this, and I'm glad I did because the foil side is ridiculously easy to damage. Anyhow, first part of tackling up and over the engine, and I've opted for the engine lid to do first, which is the simple task of flipping the lid over and drawing round it. But here and around the engine opening you'll need to be pretty neat and tidy, otherwise the lid won't sit properly or latch or both. All done and looking pretty good even if I do say so myself. So just to show you how incredibly easy it is to puncture and damage this insulation, and believe it or not, I was really trying to be careful. I was going to make this just one post on insulating, but the whole thing was getting a bit long, so I've made it into a two-parter again. So until the next post, bye for now.